Thank you very much. I'd like to tell you about my first October 17th experience. It was 4 years ago when I was asked by ATD Fourth World to speak as a part of a panelist at a side event being held by UNICEF. The theme was discrimination, and I spoke about the history of the rigid requirements of the safety net subsidies, welfare, and food stamps, which essentially amount to gender and socioeconomic discrimination, using humiliation and shame as a cost-cutting measure, perpetuating the false narrative of the deserving and the non-deserving poor. During the question and answer segment, I shared my own story of how when my children were younger, I relied on food stamps to help sustain my family, and of the looks and under-breath comments that you would receive when you were standing in line at the grocery store from the other shoppers as they look over your food to see why are you buying ice cream and all these nice quality things. At that moment, it became a little bit too overwhelming for me, and I began to get a little bit choked up because it's hard to relive memories of undue societal imposed shame and the resurfacing of the trauma it causes you after you thought you buried it deep inside. But at that moment, Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, who was also a panelist, put her hand on my knee, called me Sister Maryann, and began to tell the story of when she was a child and how her mother had a similar experience, receiving the same looks, the same questioning of why she was buying certain quality food as if it was too good for her and her children. The UN can be a little bit of an intimidating place if you've never been here before, because it is where the world meets. And I never thought that I would be here, let alone speak as part of a panel discussion on discrimination and be offered comfort by Ms. Mohammed. So 364 days a year, civil society comes and speaks on behalf of the people around the world, but October 17th is the only day out of 1 year that the people themselves come and speak on their own behalf. On that day, it didn't matter that at the time Ms. Mohammed was Assistant Secretary General, or that I was a single parent living in public housing, but on that day we shared the bond of a similar experience. And that right there is the transformative power of October 17th. Everyone is equal, sharing a common humanity. The people that come to speak here on this day don't just tell their story, they share their life. At last year's celebration, former Deputy Secretary General Jan Eliasson acknowledged this when in the commemoration stating, and I quote, "I want to say that during my many years in the UN, this is one of the most unusual, one of the most inspiring events I have ever attended. I often think when I'm spending time in the headquarters how important it is to connect to the realities. But here we are in this room, inside the United Nations in New York, and you bring the realities into this room. I think it is so important that we connect to those who are doing policy and writing resolutions, and that this is translated to the life of people. We are here to fight for peace, fight for ending poverty, and fight for human rights and human dignity. This is our job, and this is what we need to be reminding all governments, all leaders all over the world. And I think you remind us of that very important process, of bringing together those who are privileged, those who have reached the position of influence, and those who are affected, those who really need to be brought in and actually take part in the process that can change the world." End quote. People experiencing poverty want to be treated with dignity and have their voices heard. October the 17th affords a space allowing for this to take place. And if you are here in New York on October 17th, I highly recommend that you all attend the celebration and the commemoration. Thank you for your time.